The Cambodian sun rises slowly over a mist-covered jungle. Birds call softly in the distance, but beneath this beauty lies a land that once drowned in blood. The name that still haunts its people decades later is Pol Pot, a man whose vision of utopia became one of history's darkest nightmares. To understand how a single man could lead an entire nation into such horror, we must begin where his story starts, in a quiet rural village. Pol Pot was not born with that infamous name. He entered the world as Saloth Sar on May 19, 1925, in Prexbov, a small village nestled along the Mekong River in central Cambodia. His family were relatively prosperous farmers, owning enough land to be considered comfortable by local standards. His father, Pen Saloth, had ties to the Cambodian royal family as a minor official, and his mother, Sok Nem, was deeply religious. Unlike so many of the impoverished peasants around them, the young Saloth Sar knew a childhood of security and privilege. But Cambodia itself was not truly free. It was part of French Indochina, ruled by France since the 19th century. The French language, culture, and politics dominated elite circles. This colonial environment shaped Saloth Sar's early life profoundly. While he played in rice paddies like other village boys, he also absorbed the idea that power came from education, from foreign connections, from knowing the world beyond his village. By 1935, his family sent him to Phnom Penh, Cambodia's capital, for schooling at a Buddhist monastery, and later to a French-style school. Here he struggled academically. Teachers noted he was quiet, reserved, and not particularly gifted in his studies, but he possessed an intense determination. This would define him for the rest of his life, a stubbornness that would not yield no matter the cost. In 1949, Saloth Sar earned a scholarship to study radio engineering in Paris, France. This move would transform him. Paris in the post-war years was a cauldron of ideas: existentialism, nationalism, communism. Young colonial students like him found themselves in political circles where anti-imperialism was the dominant language. Saloth Sar became part of a small group of Cambodian students who joined the French Communist Party, reading Marx, Lenin, and Stalin, and debating how to liberate their homeland. It was here that he first encountered the radical belief that a perfect society could be built, not gradually, but through violent revolution. In smoky student apartments, they spoke of a purified Cambodia, free from corruption, capitalism, and foreign influence. Saloth Sar absorbed it all, quietly but deeply. In 1953, he returned to Cambodia, just as the First Indochina War was ending and France was losing its grip over Southeast Asia. Cambodia had gained nominal independence under King Norodom Sihanouk, but the country was rife with corruption and inequality. Saloth Sar joined a clandestine communist movement, operating in the shadows. Over the next decade, he lived as a revolutionary in the jungle, organizing peasants, evading government forces, and slowly rising through the ranks. During this time, he adopted the name Pol Pot, likely short for political potential or politique potentielle, though the exact origin remains debated. By the mid-1960s, Pol Pot had become the leader of the Communist Party of Cambodia, known later as the Khmer Rouge. His vision hardened. He wanted to remake Cambodia entirely. Cities would be emptied, money abolished, religion erased, family bonds destroyed. Only a completely agrarian, self-sufficient society could achieve purity. It was a vision as radical as it was deadly. The opportunity came in 1970 when Cambodia was thrown into chaos. General Lon Nol staged a coup against Prince Sihanouk and the country was dragged into the Vietnam War. The U.S. bombed Cambodia heavily to destroy Vietnamese communist sanctuaries, devastating the countryside. Amid this turmoil, Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge gained support from peasants desperate for change and from North Vietnam, which supplied weapons and training. By April 17, 1975, the Khmer Rouge entered Phnom Penh victorious. Cambodians cheered, believing peace had finally come. They were horribly mistaken. Within hours, Pol Pot's forces began evacuating the capital. Hospitals, schools, and homes were emptied at gunpoint. The sick were forced onto the streets. Families were torn apart. Pol Pot had declared Year Zero, a new beginning in which everything connected to the old Cambodia must be destroyed. Cities vanished. Millions were marched into the countryside to labor camps where they worked from dawn to dusk under brutal conditions. Anyone deemed an enemy, intellectuals, teachers, monks, professionals, or those who simply wore glasses, was executed. This was not just political repression, it was social engineering at its most extreme. Pol Pot believed he was cleansing society of impurities, creating a classless paradise. In reality, it became a genocide. Between 1975 and 1979, an estimated 1.7 to 2 million people, a quarter of Cambodia's population, died from execution, starvation, and disease. Mass graves, known as the killing fields, filled the countryside. Yet, during these years, Pol Pot himself remained an almost ghostly figure. Few ordinary Cambodians ever saw him. He ruled from secrecy, paranoid and unyielding. In his mind, the suffering of millions was justified as the price of revolution. His regime finally collapsed in January 1979, when Vietnam invaded Cambodia. Horrified by cross-border attacks and Pol Pot's extremism, the Khmer Rouge fled to the jungles near the Thai border, where Pol Pot continued to lead a guerrilla movement for nearly 2 decades. Internationally, Cold War politics meant that, astonishingly, Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge retained Cambodia's seat at the United Nations well into the 1980s, supported indirectly by China and even tolerated by Western nations opposed to Vietnam. But time caught up with him. By the 1990s, the Khmer Rouge was crumbling. Former comrades turned against him. In 1997, Pol Pot was arrested by his own followers and placed under house arrest deep in the jungle. A year later, on April 15, 1998, he died in his sleep, reportedly of a heart attack, just before he was to be handed over to an international tribunal. He never faced justice. Today, Cambodia still bears the scars of his rule. Skulls and memorials like Chung Ek speak silently of his crimes. Survivors tell stories of loved ones lost, of nightmares that never fade. Pol Pot's life is a chilling reminder of how ideology, when stripped of humanity, can become a weapon of unimaginable destruction. He began as a quiet village boy with dreams of a better future and ended as one of history's most infamous architects of death. As the Cambodian sun sets over the quiet fields where so many perished, one question lingers: how many more times will humanity walk this same dark path?